Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kadene Chambers, and welcome to BTS Live. This is Gem 1 in our new series where we're looking at loss and grief. It feels like we've all been in a season of loss that is even deeper than it typically is, as we've all been navigating the pandemic. We've lost loved ones, we've lost jobs, we've lost homes, our financial situation has changed. And so much has happened to so many of us. And if you caught the episode 1, the first week of November, you will see where we dived into my personal loss, Dr. Franklin's loss. But we didn't just wallow in self-pity. It was about talking about the techniques and strategies that we have used to help us get onto the other side. Dr. Franklin may be further along than I am, having lost his parents around 13 years ago. My loss is more recent, 5-6 months away, having just lost my mother. And so I'm still in the grieving process, like fresh out the gate. But where I am now today, I'm at a better place than I was 3 months ago or even 3 weeks ago. It's a process, but I can see the progress and the healing that's taking place. And so I invite you, if you haven't already watched episode 1, to go and take a look. I guarantee you it will be worth your while. So the question for this week that we're looking at is, what have I learned through experiencing this loss? And that's a key question where we look at, okay, is there something to learn if we've lost a loved one, or we've lost a relationship that's key has ended, or, I've experienced major loss of material possession through natural disaster or fire, whatever, because loss isn't just about the death of a loved one. So is it an unusual question that it is, what have I learned? It's not, because there is something to learn in every experience that we have. You would say that, right, Dr. Franklin? He's not in, so yes.
Oh, yes.
So what have I learned? For me, it's that, and man, this one was deep. Knowing something and experiencing something are two very, very, very different things. And I can't stress that enough, because listen, I've studied psychology. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I have a master's in psychology. And we've devoted entire courses on loss and grief. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure I got an A.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
And I'm sure I thought I understood the material and that I understood, because I've offered support to people who have experienced loss. But can I be honest with you? Nothing prepared me for losing my mother. Nothing prepared me for that feeling. So I may have technically known or understood loss, but I'd never experienced anything like that. The thing knocked me down, and it pummeled me. It ripped my heart out. It left this gaping hole that felt like nothing could ever fill it. And I'd never experienced an emotion like that in my entire life. Nothing has compared to that. So everything that has happened before that I thought was stressful or a crisis or, oh my God, detrimental, I now learned was nothing.
Absolutely.
Let's put that in perspective. It was such a profound understanding that I had to pick up my phone and call my producer, who's still on with us. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she remembers. Called her one day and I apologized to her. Why did I apologize? Because she had lost her mom. Monique, did it reach out? It wasn't quite a year yet, was it?
Yeah, it had passed a year and maybe 2 months.
Listen, so she had lost her mom about a year and 2 months. And I thought I was being empathetic because, I spoke to her and I said, I'm so sorry. And I bought you a book, right, love? I gave her a book that I had read that had such a profound impact, Dying to Be Me, because not to tell Monique's story, but her mom died of breast cancer. And the lady in that book had a near-death experience, and it was based on cancer. And I thought it would have been an amazing book. And so I gave Monique that book. And Monique, she said it helped. So I thought I was being empathetic and all of that. But listen, when I lost my mother, I realized that I wasn't very supportive. What I thought I was doing was really nothing. I had to call her. I was in tears and I said to her, Monique, I am sorry. I did not understand. I didn't know what you were going through. But this is how you felt. I said, I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. I felt like I was dying. And in that moment, I realized that anybody who I had previously thought that I had offered support to, it wasn't really support. That's how I felt. And listen, people, if you're supporting persons who are going through a loss, I'm not telling you that your support is not real. I'm just telling you how I felt, really and truly, how I felt. So it knocked me down, and that feeling was just so intense. And so it came home. That phrase, I didn't coin it, I know it. Knowing and experiencing are two different things.
Oh, yes.
But in that moment, it became so clear to me. I had an epiphany on that thing, that line that I'd known before. Yes, I know of loss, but having never experienced loss like that, I didn't understand it. I really didn't. And so that's what I've learned through this loss, that knowing something and experiencing it are worlds apart. And so it gives us an opportunity to assess how we are moving through life. How are we interacting with others? Whether it is a loss that they've experienced, or we are just either having a conversation or trying to help somebody who's dealing with something. It doesn't have to be a loss, right? And when we go, yes, I know what you're doing with what you're dealing with. Not because you studied something. Let me be clear. You don't know what the person is dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
You don't. And not because you've seen somebody close to you deal with something. Yes, you still don't know. Because even as it relates to my loss, Monique has her own loss. Hers isn't exactly like mine, right? Each of us who experience loss, it goes through a different process. The emotions aren't exactly the same, how we're processing it, how we're dealing with it. And so it is unique for all of us. And it is a reminder that we should continuously give each other grace. Continuously act from that place that says, I don't fully understand how this person is feeling, but okay, how can I show up and be supportive? Or if it isn't even somebody who is close to you, how can I be a decent human being? You know, and that's what I've learned from this experience. And I'm forever changed because of that. So now I turn that question over to you, Dr. Franklin, dealing with the loss of your parents. What did you learn?
Well, I learned, first thing I learned is that I'm very much like them. When you're growing up, you kind of think like, oh man, and parents do it too. And they say to their children, like, I don't know where he gets this from. He gets it from you. That's the only place. And then we as children would only get ourselves from our, bits and pieces of our parents. So those bits and pieces we carry with us throughout our entire lives. And when our parents pass away, those traits, those aspects, all those great qualities that we picked up on, and some of the bad ones too, but they come along with it all. We absorb those into us when they pass away. That's when I learned that. I didn't know this was going to happen. I started to talk like my father. I started to look, when my mother passed away, I started to look like my mother. Now, obviously, my mother and father don't look alike, but they do in me, right? And so therefore, I could have like something that reminds me of my mother. Every time I see it now, I'm like, oh, that's mama right there. Mom ain't gone nowhere. And I things when I see my father and daddy, like I even tell the students sometimes, I'm sure I said it in some of my classes with you. I was like, man, I'm just like my father. Like this is crazy. Like he was a professor too, and he wore suits. So absorption is the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned was new joy. Now, the thing about, and let me describe new joy. New joy, from what I figure, is the fact of realizing, number one, that you can no longer experience your world the same way. So you have to, I know it's a big word, it's a strong word, letting go. Not letting go of the person, but letting go of the way that it used to be with that person in your life. Now it's a new, better way, but we're so comfortable to the old way. That's where we get that friction, right? Because we're so comfortable with like them in our lives and everything. That's all we've ever known. So how could we not be so extremely comfortable with it? But just like the eagle stirs the nest, we must mentally and physically and always leave the nest, but it doesn't mean we forget the nest. And we take the nest with us. and that's how this life cycle goes on continually, is I have to take the baton from them, and then my children are going to take the baton from me, and so forth and so forth. So I think it's a celebratory factor when you have this new joy, because instead of now being a spectator, you're now the person with the baton in your hand, and you're in the race, and you're going to win. And then the third thing that I would say is new victory. We experience a lot of victories with our loved ones. That's why we love them so much. But now that they're away, we sometimes feel, am I going to experience the same victories that I used to experience, because they're not physically here? But we must totally understand that this world is not just physical. I mean, even physicists will tell you that, that this is not everything that we see. It's more of what we feel, of what we internalize, that experiential thing that you were talking about. We have to go through it. That's how we have a stamp of approval for it. So this new victory has to happen, because the old victory, or the victory before, we're better than that now, because we've absorbed our loved ones in us, and their memory lasts forever in our minds. They last forever.
Thank you. That is, yes, a lot to process and think about and take in, and make sure that as we go through our loss and the grieving process, that we're mindful of that. And if the viewer is offering support to somebody who has experienced the loss and going through grief, that you can share this information and you have a deeper understanding that will allow you to offer even better support to the person. So thank you for joining us for this week's BTS Live Gems. See you next week.